welcome to the Danksgiving Extravaganza episode of Pod People, the show where we carve up some of your favorite and least favorite horror movies. I'm Matisse Van Rossum.
I'm sorry, I'm just eating my full Popeyes Cajun turkey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matisse, you were saying something? This turkey's just got me.
Yes, we've all got our deep fried Cajun turkeys from Popeyes in front of us since it is Thanksgiving. We went and got all of our sides from KFC though.
Because everyone knows the sides over there, the best.
Of course.
And for people that are wondering, we're not sharing a turkey. That would be weird.
No, we each have our own turkey.
Have our own turkey.
What do
yes.
you think we are, heathens?
Yes, for $40 we have the pleasure, and they deep fried it just for us.
We need the tryptophan.
Oh, the grease makes it go down so good.
Now I need to go to sleep, you guys. Too much turkey.
Just wash it down with this gravy. You'll be fine.
Ooh, I love KFC gravy, my favorite.
All right, I'm Ben, and I am having a good time eating this turkey.
I am Eugene, and I'm here all nestled up with my Thanksgiving treats, some cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, some honeyed ham. I am having myself a feast, along with my turkey and KFC sides.
Don't forget the fried okra and mac and cheese.
Oh, I hate okra. People that eat greens on Thanksgiving are fools.
Get off of my show.
Such a southern thing.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I'm from the South. So, in lieu of a news story this episode, we're just going to take care of a bit of house cleaning, talk about some changes to the format of our show.
We got some big announcements.
Here at Pod People, we strive to create the most entertaining and streamlined listening experience for you, the audience. You know, we're all pretty new to this whole thing, so we've done some introspection and looked into how we can make the show better for you and for us as well. And so we've decided that rather than focus on 4 to 5 movies per episode, which was frankly becoming a bit overwhelming for us as well, we will be doing 2 to 3 movies per episode. Still focused around a theme. We will be doing away with our awards segment, and the game will be changing slightly as well. Instead of the winner picking a movie for the loser to review solo, the winner of each game will be choosing the third movie that we all talk about as a group. Some changes we're very excited about that I think are gonna make the show a lot better in general.
Definitely. It was fucking insane that we were doing 5 movies.
We're absolute madmen.
Yes, it was a bit long. Sometimes you can't go for the whole turkey. You need to start with an arm or a leg.
Hey, don't tell me to not eat this whole Popeyes turkey.
I'm
Eugene.
saying we can handle it. But for the listeners, sometimes you just need to have a little breast, a thigh, a little bit of booty. You need something just to...
Yeah, you don't want to get stuffed right off the bat.
Right. We want to slowly fill you up, so you always come back for seconds.
Or thirds, or fourths. That's really the way to do Thanksgiving. Fuck eating one big meal. Just eat like 5 big meals throughout the day.
Well, for me, Thanksgiving's a week-long thing. I have a Thanksgiving dinner every night. It's basically Hanukkah for me.
The entire month of November is Thanksgiving for me. I wake up every morning and eat an entire turkey by myself.
Can I tell you guys something, though?
No.
I'm going to tell it anyway.
Okay.
I hate turkey.
I hate turkey?
It. It's basically just a bad chicken. Why do we keep them around?
Yeah, you're fucking elbow deep in that fucking Popeyes turkey over there.
It's
I see
deep fried.
you.
I'll eat anything deep fried, so.
Deep fried in Cajun season.
Yeah, my arm is stuck, though, so don't mistake this for enthusiasm. I'm a little worried. I'll be fine by the end of the episode. Something's got to give.
Well,
I can just eat your way out.
Here, let me pass...
Oh, good idea. Hold on.
Let me pass you the butter so you can grease yourself up.
Oh, thanks. All right. Yeah, get back to me in a sec. I'm gonna work on this butter.
Are you like a Thanksgiving ham person?
No, man. For me, it's a rump roast. That's what I did.
A rump roast?
Yeah,
what
like a
the
beef
fuck
roast.
Is that?
That's
like a roast.
That's like a Christmas dish, though. You eat
Well,
roast for Christmas.
If I had my options open, I would have a rump roast on Thanksgiving. I would have it on Halloween if I could. But you know what? Society says that I'm weird for doing it.
Nobody gives away rump roast door to door on Halloween. trick or treat, where's my rump roast?
You don't know that. You just haven't gone to the butcher shop for trick-or-treating, have you?
I did, and the butcher chased me away with a cleaver in true Halloween fashion.
He thought you were an actual ghost. That's what happened.
Oh, that does make sense. I was wearing a sheet. I did look pretty scary.
I'm sure you did.
But enough talk about Halloween.
Yes.
It is Thanksgiving. And today on the Pod People, we are talking about two classic Thanksgiving horror movies, Thankskilling and Thankskilling 3.
Yes. It's surprising there aren't many horror movies about Thanksgiving out there. It's actually pretty limited. You can find a lot about Christmas and stuff, but Thanksgiving's a dry holiday for spooks.
I think when we were doing our research, we found like 5 total.
Yeah.
There's less
movies.
Yeah, there's definitely less than 10 Thanksgiving horror movies
And
out
some
there.
of them are just connections because they got like turkeys in them or evil turkeys. So
We
very
definitely
limited.
need to get more Thanksgiving horror movies on the market because it's an untapped market. What are you going to compete with if you release a horror movie around Thanksgiving? Nothing.
Nothing at all. And
Exactly. It's all yours.
we want to just dive in and talk about this movie. So we're going to turn it over to Ben over here.
Thankskilling. A killer turkey rises from the dead after 505 years. He starts to kill off some college kids over Thanksgiving break. It's pretty basic. but-
Something anyone can grasp. Apparently, the tagline for the movie was conceived of before the actual script or anything was made. And that tagline was, "Gobble, gobble, motherfucker."
I mean, honestly, when you hear that tagline, you want to make a movie of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
And
almost
that-
written all the way through just because of that.
And that's just like one of so many good one-liners
Oh,
in this
yeah.
movie.
There were so many.
This movie was done on a very, very low budget. And so the turkey puppet has its charms.
Oh yeah, it looks bad though.
First scene of the movie, first thing we see is a very close-up shot of a woman's tit.
Yes,
right?
as another tagline promises, warning, tits in the very first minute. They certainly deliver.
It's the very first shot.
Yeah, boobies.
A turkey breast, you could say.
We see her like running away. She like falls down, and we realize she's being chased by an evil demonic turkey with a tomahawk.
Oh, she's dressed as a pilgrim too, because
Yeah.
this takes place in what is it, like 1691? I
Well, yes,
think.
well, hey, suspension of disbelief. She is a pilgrim.
She
She's
is
not
a pilgrim.
dressed as
No.
one.
Yeah.
She's definitely
Give her the
not,
credit.
not somebody dressed as a pilgrim. She is a pilgrim.
But before Turkey kills her, he just yells, "Nice tits, bitch!"
Just
And
that line
fucking
immediately.
kills her.
Yeah, you know that.
That's the first line of the movie. First shot is a tit. The first line is "Nice tits, bitch."
I think at that point, that's when the dividing line starts to come in on people who will love the movie or people who will have a horrible time. 'Cause
Hey,
it's-
at least they let you know exactly what you're in for immediately.
Yes.
They do not pussyfoot around.
Yeah, at the same time, sometimes it feels like it peaked.
certainly no line that the turkey says is any funnier than
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And most of that
in
is
terms
just-
of the one-liners.
Either you love it or you hate it.
And this is followed up by the opening credits, which honestly look like the closing credits. And the only reason I want to bring this up is because it gives us some most excellent names, such as Charles Dead Bloody Guy Lamb, General Bastard, and Wanda Lust, who is the pilgrim with the nice tits.
Oh,
She gets top billing, but that's literally the only part of the movie that she's in.
They probably spent half the budget on her. I think
Yeah,
she's probably
making
like
those-
a porn star.
Yeah,
making
she's
those
got to
fake
be.
boobs.
I'm gonna do some investigation. Yeah, I think she's just like a porn star or something.
Yeah, it would make
I
sense.
I can't find shit
Like-
about her. She's from Hungary. She's
Oh.
hungry for turkey.
But anyways, after the long opening credits, considering this movie's only 70 minutes, the credits are
It's
a
like a good
solid
5 minutes,
5% of the movie.
Yes, right. That is one thing. This movie is very short.
It's short and sweet. Like I
Short
like
and
my
sweet.
turkey. It definitely doesn't wear out its welcome. I think that's one of its biggest strengths is that
Well,
like
hey, that's
it is so ridiculous. And at least they keep it like short and tight before
yes.
it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's talk about these college kids. We have the Jock Johnny, the ditzy girl Allie,
Allie, yeah. Ditzy does not do her justice. She is so dumb.
Yeah, she is incredibly dumb.
Although, in fairness, all of these people are
Right.
incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
She's somehow the dumbest.
We have the redneck, Billy.
Who in the first scene we see him in, he's running out of the school. Something that I thought was fantastic. He rips off his shirt and he goes, "Thanksgiving break!"
Yeah, he's fat as fuck.
Who's ever been so excited about Thanksgiving break?
These kids are, well, I should say kids. They're all obviously like in their mid to late 30s.
Right, which was that intentional? We know that a lot of things were purposely bad, but maybe this was they couldn't find people that looked young enough.
They treat Thanksgiving break like it's spring break.
This is a joke movie. No one should be coming into this expecting, well, I guess a good horror movie. It's purposely bad. And so,
Oh yeah, it's excellent, but it's because of how terrible it is. This is like the Room of horror movies, I think.
Yes, but I'd say it's certainly more intentional than The Room. But that same thing, it's funny
definitely.
because of how bad.
And boy, is it bad.
How self-aware do you think they were when making it, though? Because a lot of times it kind of teetered on that line.
I was questioning that for a lot of the movie too, at least for like the first maybe 20-ish minutes. I was sort of questioning whether they were trying to make a bad movie or if they were just really bad at making a good movie. I think the tipping point for me was when the sheriff, who is one of the girl's dads, Kristen, I think her name is. Yeah. The sheriff is sitting at home at his kitchen table and his wife puts a cup of coffee in front of him and he says, "Oh boy, this tastes like you shit in the coffee." And she says, "I did. I want a divorce." And then slams the coffee pot down on the table and it's just got a turd in it. It was at that moment where I'm like, okay, they're trying to make an absurd movie. This is a joke.
The problem that blurs it is that there are just some jokes that don't really land.
Yeah,
like they
I
do
think
one
that's the big
joke
thing.
that keeps reoccurring where they keep saying that one of the girls' legs that the legs stay open like the John Benet Ramsey case or something.
Her legs are harder to close than the John Benet Ramsey case.
Right.
Yeah, Kristen makes that joke twice.
The nerdy dude, Darren, tries to tell another John Benet Ramsey joke a little bit later.
Right, that's the
But he
payoff
fucks up
to
the punchline.
to the repetition that they tried setting up that dumb joke so that they could make that.
Yeah,
joke
it's something
later on,
like
but
John Benet Ramsey couldn't keep her fucking legs closed or something.
Oh my god.
Oh man, I want to talk about the nerdy kid, Darren. It seemed like the whole movie he just really wanted to fuck Johnny.
Well, that's the thing. He is Billy's friend. He doesn't know any of these other people, and Billy brings him along. He does that whole thing where they're in the car and he's like, "This Thanksgiving break, it's not just gonna be me and my hand. I'm gonna have sex with one of you in this car." And none of them act like this is a weird thing to say. He's literally saying that he's gonna bang one of the other people in the car, and they all just like, "Oh, Darren."
Meanwhile, he just has such a determined look on his face.
And the hairline of a 40-year-old man.
Yes. He does try to have sex with multiple characters.
Yes.
He is almost as thirsty as Allie.
Ben, why don't you talk about the car breaking down? And
Okay, yeah, so the car breaks down.
while they're on their way home from school for Thanksgiving.
Yep, so they decide, hey, let's camp out for the night.
Just on the side of the road.
Just on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. And as they're setting up camp, Darren is telling this origin story of turkey, essentially. A Native American shaman used necromancy to create turkey, who has been said to appear every 505 years.
Yeah, which I thought was really funny because Darren says, and every 505 years he roams the earth, killing any humans that he can find. But that would mean that this would only be the second time because it's been 505 years since the first time, since he was created. So it's not like they have a history of turkey rising from the grave and killing people. Like, it just happened the once.
He was just hoping that it would work a second time.
Just like, maybe he'll rise from the grave again in like 505 years or something.
Well, we don't know how the first one went down. Maybe just like in the original It movie, he does a flip right into like a sewer line, and as he crawls in, see you in 505 years, bitch.
Yeah, that's true. That could have been how it happened. Oh yeah, but then as Darren's telling this story, they all say, "Let me guess, that was 505 years ago to the day," and he's like, "No. But it will be in 45 minutes."
Which is classic.
Yes.
Really classic. The turkey is set to like slaughter all white people or something.
Yeah, as punishment for driving Native Americans off their land.
Yeah. We should talk about Oscar.
Oh, the redneck hermit played by General Bastard.
General Bastard.
Yeah, so his dog urinates on like a totem pole.
Yeah,
in the middle of the forest.
Which
that
is
looked like
his-
was bought at like a general store or something.
Oh god.
Because of it, Turkey rose from the dead and killed the dog.
So that sends General Bastard on a quest for revenge against Turkey.
Yeah, throughout the rest of the movie.
for killing his beloved dog, Flashy.
Oh, but we can't forget two one-liners that pop up here. When Turkey's first getting pissed on, and he goes, "Oh, I'm pissed."
I forgot about
When General Bastard finds the dog, and he's like, "I had an axe, so I accidentally cut your dog's head off."
Turkey's one-liners are all very solid.
Yeah.
All extremely funny.
Carries the movie for sure.
Yeah, it wouldn't be anything without the absurdity that they put into the turkey creature. That's what makes it so fun.
Turkey is like very obviously a hand puppet because they never have any like wide shots of him. They're always like close-ups, so you can't see the puppeteer. Oh, but before we cut to that next morning, we have to remember that Kristen goes out into the woods to try to call her dad because she can't get reception, and she gets briefly chased by Turkey.
I can't remember his one-liner there.
It's something like I'm gonna drink your blood like cranberry sauce or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And she goes back to the campsite and she tells them all about this, and they all just brush it off except for Johnny, who is in love with Kristen. He's like, "Guys, I think she might be telling the truth." But they still all just go to bed, Kristen included. Like, they just seem to forget the fact that there's an evil killer turkey on the loose.
Yeah, they don't really care.
Well, and I mean, I guess they don't need to, because Turkey doesn't do shit to them at all that night, except poops on Billy's chest.
Well, let's not forget, because that was why General Bastard was there, because he kept the turkey at bay by...
That's right. He kept watch over them all night to
Which is
keep the
weird.
turkey from killing them.
Apparently, there was almost nothing left on the cutting room floor. They basically used every scene that they shot.
I'm not
That
surprised.
doesn't
Right.
surprise me. I heard they shot this movie in like a week or something.
That also doesn't surprise me. Man, the production value is so bad. Everything is extremely overexposed, over or underexposed. There's nothing properly exposed. There's one point where they're driving and the lens of the camera is like visibly dirty. Like you can see just smudges all over it. And everybody looks like their eye line implies that they're like reading their scripts off screen, which
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they probably were.
But after they wake up, they flag down a car.
No, not even. Their car's just fixed again in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
By
Inexplicably.
magic, you know?
Inexplicably, their car's fine when they get up the next morning.
Just gotta let it cool down overnight. The turkey hitchhikes.
Yeah,
On
the
the
turkey
road.
flags down a guy who pulls over to offer a turkey a ride.
Yeah, and he's like, "You can offer me weed, gas money, or ass."
Yeah, like cash, grass, or ass, I think is what he says.
Yeah. Of course, the turkey goes with ass.
Yeah, so this dude tries to fuck the turkey, and then the turkey pulls out a shotgun, probably also from his ass, and blows him away and steals the car.
Yeah, that was the funniest shit to me because the shotgun is like bigger than the turkey.
Yep.
So wherever he was keeping it, it was pretty impressive.
If you're looking for logic in this movie, you've come to the wrong place.
Somehow the turkey can drive a car.
Hey, if Michael Myers can drive a car, that turkey can damn well drive a car.
Johnny is trying to like reconnect with his father, right?
Yeah, his dad won't talk to him because he's only the second string quarterback of the football team instead of the first string quarterback.
Yeah, and so he's like, Dad, come talk to me for a second, and just like lies to his dad about being first string quarterback just so his dad would talk to him again.
And right as they're having their bonding moment, Turkey shows up.
And kills the dad.
Yep.
Cuts his head right off.
It's great too because the dad is smoking a cigar. Turkey cuts his head off and the head goes flying and the cigar flies out of his mouth and then lands in Turkey's beak perfectly.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And Turkey also kills Johnny's mom too, I think. I don't remember that for sure.
Yeah.
Then Johnny escapes and runs off to gather all of his friends to tell them that the killer turkey is real and that it killed his parents.
Yeah, so he gets a hold of all his friends except Allie, who is having sex with...
I think it's just some random dude.
Yeah, some random dude. Turkey comes in while they're having sex, kills the dude, and starts having sex with Allie.
And she doesn't even notice.
Yeah.
When she does turn around, right before he kills her, he delivers another fabulous one-liner. You just got stuffed, bitch.
And he just fucking snaps her neck.
Oh my god. There's too many good one-liners in this movie.
So the college kids find Allie's remains.
Darren says that there are books written about the killer turkey, but the library is closed because this is late at night. And Kristen's like, well, let's just go to my house. My dad's got a lot of books. Surely he has something about this killer turkey.
Who needs the internet when you have a library in your own house?
And meanwhile, Turkey beats them to Kristen's house and knocks on the door wearing those like fake glasses that have like the nose and the mustache. And so the dad doesn't realize that he's a turkey and he thinks he's just one of Kristen's friends. So we get this great scene of them just like sitting at the kitchen table and her dad is dressed as a turkey because he's going to like some Thanksgiving ball or something.
So they're just having like casual conversation, which is one of the funniest things to me.
Yeah, and I think at some point Turkey's like, well, I'm not gonna lie, this is really uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna leave and come back later. And as he's leaving, the dad's like, oh, what a strange duck. And that sends Turkey into a rage.
Yeah. And so Turkey kills the dad and
cuts his face off and wears it like a mask.
Yep.
But that's all used so that he can disguise himself and then talk to all the other kids. And
the kids don't recognize him because he's wearing Kristen's dad's face.
Right. Kristen just gives her a kiss, doesn't notice anything.
Yeah. They go through all these books and we get a nice little montage that ends up being like 45 seconds.
And it's not even like her dad has like a library or like a study or anything. They're just like in the spare storage room, like looking through all these boxes.
Yeah, they have like 15 books total.
After the montage, they're like, oh man, that took forever. Finally, we found what we were looking for. And one of the others is like, that just took like 5 minutes. They have to speak some prayer backwards and burn him at the stake like a witch, and then that will kill him.
Yeah, but the prayer was in like a code that Darren had to like
the mathematical
do math
equation.
for.
Right.
Yeah, so after that, Billy gets bored and he starts exploring the house. Happens to notice the dad dead on the floor without a face. And he's like, wait a second. If that's the dad...
He's like, I'm over this bullshit, man. I'm out of here. After he leaves and they drive the turkey off, they're looking through the book again, and they say, like, if you don't see him, he's either in his magic teepee or he's killing one of your friends. So then they all, like, look at each other and they're like, Billy! And then we cut to Billy walking down the sidewalk. We see this cartoon, like, fried turkey just, like, sitting on the side of the road, and you hear Turkey's voice is like, oh, I'm delicious. Come eat me, Billy. And so Billy eats this magical cartoon turkey, and then the real turkey erupts out of his stomach like Alien, and I think that's when he drops the gobble gobble motherfucker line, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the friend group catches up to them. Darren, like, holds Billy in his arms as he's dying.
But a nice long scene where he just keeps crying over Billy's slow death. Just drawing it out so much.
And then we get that nice little, like, music montage of them, like, being best friends while somebody in the background is singing, like, you were my best friend, Billy. Why'd you have to go and die? Something like...
Yeah, it's an incredible song.
It's amazing. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's so fucking funny. Just them, like, sharing an ice cream cone and, like, skipping around holding hands and, like, rolling in the grass. It's so good. Just so good.
Billy dies, and now Darren is dead set on revenge because his best friend Billy died in his arms. They track Turkey down to his teepee.
Which is also just on the side of the road. It's just this tiny little teepee on the side of the road.
Turkey's just, like, chilling in it.
He's eating a salad.
Yeah. And so they get out of their car and get ready to burn him. They set up this, like, elaborate plan where one of them will distract them while the other, like, sneaks up behind him.
Sneaks in the back entrance of the teepee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing I didn't consider. Do many teepees have a back entrance?
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
And also, it's one of those, like, Doctor Who scenarios where the teepee is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Because they're standing right next to the teepee talking about their plan, and, like, not even, like, a full-grown person could fit in the teepee. But then when they go inside, it's, like, big enough for all of them. One of them comes in the back and just ties a single piece of string around Turkey, and that restrains him. And maybe my favorite line of the movie is when they're getting ready to say the prayer and Darren says, I've got something you don't have. And he, like, holds the book in front of Turkey's face, and Turkey's like, what's that, Darren? A vagina.
Oh, that one is good. I forgot about that.
Great. Oh, man. But they end up saying the prayer. So Turkey has the ability to be killed, but they don't get a chance to burn him at the stake. He runs away before they can.
He escapes and runs out the front of the teepee right into General Bastard.
Yeah, who shoots him, and he goes flying into, like,
into a trash can.
Yeah. Which casually just has radioactive waste in it, too.
Yep. Well, we don't see that until after they leave. He just gets shot into a trash can. They look at him and they're like, oh, yeah, he's definitely dead. And they're like, okay, we can go home now. And then we get, like, the punch-in on the trash can, and it says radioactive waste.
They have, like, a 2 or 3 minute conversation right next to the radioactive waste, you know? Like, totally getting super irradiated.
Just on the side of the road. And it's literally just like a trash can with a sticker on it.
Yeah. But Turkey gets reanimated from the radioactive waste, so now he's, like, glowing green and...
Right, well, they go back to...
Kristen's
house. They're just like, well, what do you guys want to do now? Like, oh, let's just make some popcorn and watch some movies.
Yeah.
Like, totally brushing off that their friends and Johnny's parents and Kristen's dad have all been murdered that evening, and they haven't even, like, done anything about the bodies. They're just like, okay, well, let's just go back and make some popcorn and watch some movies.
Yep. Kristen and Johnny are like snuggling together, and Darren's like trying to snuggle with Johnny. And Kristen and Johnny start making out, and like they fall to the floor, and Darren is feeling like the super awkward third wheel, so he's like, I'm gonna get a snack, and like walks over them as they're like fucking on the floor.
Well, he goes to the bathroom first, and I guess he's in there for a really long time, because when he comes out of the bathroom and goes to the kitchen for a snack, it cuts back to Johnny and Kristen both just fully clothed, asleep on the couch. So either they fucked super fast, or Darren was in the bathroom for a really long time. Or maybe a combination of the two.
So he goes to get a snack, and Turkey's there.
He's now an irradiated, glowing green zombie turkey.
Yeah. He rips Darren's tongue out, right?
He rips Darren's tongue out and then pecks his heart out. It does like a super like speed ramp of him like pecking his chest, and then all of a sudden he just pulls the heart out.
Yeah, and it just goes flying onto the floor.
Yeah.
So from there, Johnny and Kristen go to see what's going on. Johnny gets stabbed with an electric knife, right?
A turkey
like
carver.
A carver
yeah,
knife,
an electric turkey
knife,
carver. Yep.
Which is perfect. From there, Kristen sets the turkey on fire with a flamethrower.
Well, they first they run out to the shed in the backyard to escape, and Johnny's like dying on the floor, and in another great line says, "Oh man, I really wish I could call a timeout on this one," as he's dying. And then Turkey shows up, and Kristen makes a homemade flamethrower with like a can of hairspray and a lighter,
and it makes Turkey fly back into like a pile of wood,
into a conveniently placed like a pyre. It's like it's like a pre-made pyre.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And General Bastard just shows up then again for no reason, just for like one shot. Like he appears behind her, stands there, is like, "You did good," and then he's just gone again.
Yeah.
Like,
we get no real closure besides that. We get one scene afterwards where it's like family happily eating Thanksgiving dinner together, and then the cooked turkey comes to life.
Oh yeah, and like leaps off the table, and in Turkey's voice is like, "Sequel, biatch!"
Yeah, and then we just get a card that says Thanksgiving 2 or Thankskilling 2 in space.
Yeah, it says to be continued in space, and then roll credits. Man, I just fucking loved the shit out of this movie.
Yeah, it had me hooked from the first couple minutes.
Immediately. As soon as the fucking nice tits bitch line, I was like, I know I'm gonna love the shit out of this movie. And I did. It did not disappoint. Yeah. I honestly think that this is gonna be like one of my new Thanksgiving traditions. Like, I have to watch this movie every year.
Well, the thing is, a lot of times when people set out to make a bad movie, it usually ends up not being fun, or it becomes too self-aware to the point where it just loses the punch of it or the charm.
Yeah.
This one kind of avoids that in a lot of ways.
Like, it's definitely self-aware, but I agree with you. It totally still has that charm of like a bad movie that was made earnestly to be good. They found a really good balance between like breaking the fourth wall a little bit and still keeping your suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. I think the big things that worked in his favor are the low budget and like how fast they shot everything,
and just how bad everything else was, like the shot composition, the lighting, the acting, the fact that everybody was obviously reading their scripts off camera. I think a lot of that really contributed to give it that sort of authentic bad movie feel. I had such a fucking good time with this movie. I was laughing so hard the whole time.
And it doesn't overstay its welcome. Because it's only 70 minutes, it keeps the punch, which I think helps as well.
And like 5 of that 70 minutes is like the credits. So it's just like watching like an hour episode of something, you know? I think we've covered it pretty well. Should we just go ahead and rate this before we get into Thankskilling 3?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. Do you want to start, Eugene? Eugene?
Yeah, well, this is certainly one of the best, if not one of the only Thanksgiving movies that, Thanksgiving horror movies that I've seen. Maybe even just Thanksgiving movies in general. I don't know how many of those come out.
Other than like the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special.
Right, yeah. So Charlie Brown doesn't hold the market anymore. Thankskilling is definitely a movie that you can make into a tradition. It's a dumb movie. You can get your friends over and have a good time. I will warn that if you do not find yourself enjoying the movie within the first 5 to 10 minutes, then you'll probably want to just sit this one out, because it's good because of how bad it is, and if you don't like it for that, you will probably end up having a bad time. So for me,
it's schlocky as hell. I agree with you.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 because it is fun, it's dumb, and if you just turn off your brain and accept the goofiness, then, well, you will enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3.5 too, actually. I think it definitely doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's entertaining as hell. This is the perfect movie to watch in kind of a food coma fueled haze post Thanksgiving dinner. So
Yeah, when you're full of tryptophan with your tryptophan. I'm going to give this 5 out of 5.
Ooh.
Because the level of enjoyment that I got out of watching this movie is unfucking matched. I've never seen anything like it. It's gonna be my new Thanksgiving tradition. Fuck you, Charlie Brown, you're out. Thankskilling, you're in. I don't think I will ever get tired of this movie. I think it will continue to be just as entertaining every single time I watch it. And for that, for sheer entertainment value alone and nothing else, 5 out of 5.
So that gives us a combined score of 4 out of 5?
I believe so, yeah. 4 sounds right.
I can live with that.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
So, Eugene, why don't you tell us about Thankskilling 3?
All right, I will. So, 3 years after Thankskilling comes out, a Kickstarter begins to create the sequel to Thankskilling, Thankskilling 3. And so they already decided to jump over the second movie and just move into third.
Well, because Thankskilling 2 is a major plot point of Thankskilling.
Oh, yes,
3.
yes, and I'm going to be getting into that. It was a successful Kickstarter with over $100,000 put in. The movie revolves around, as we said, Thankskilling 2, and we see in the opening scene a clip from that movie. In the first shot of the film, we get tits again, so they really know what to deliver on.
Wanda Lust making her return for Thankskilling 2
Right,
in Thankskilling 3.
As a bare-chested astronaut floating in space who, after just a short couple seconds, is blown apart by a ship that Turkey is piloting.
I just want to say the outfit that she has is pretty incredible. It's like a spacesuit with just her tits cut out of it.
Yes.
It is beautiful, yeah. It all looks like a retro 80s style film. That is cut off after about maybe a minute or two. And then we are introduced to the actual story of this film, which for me became such a mess as it went on. It's not just Turkey, who in this world is the star of Thankskilling 1 and 2, who, after the failure of Thankskilling 2, realizes that they are trying to destroy every copy, just burn the mess down to the ground, where it will be seen by nobody. Which kicks off his quest to try and find the last copy of Thankskilling 2, so that he can spread his curse, his evil turkey curse. That would have been fine on its own, but then they add in the B story of this puppet who looks just like a Jim Henson Muppet creature who loses her mind and is on a quest to try and get it back. With the added budget, they wanted to really do something crazy, and I'm sure they wanted to deliver to their fans all of this nonsense. A lot of people seem to draw the movie's influence from things like Wonder Chosen and Meet the Feebles, which I have not seen personally.
Wonder Chosen is incredible.
It gave me a very strong Wonder Chosen vibe, and also the YouTube show Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, something like that.
Yeah.
They really took the puppetry to like next level in this.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it was because they saw such a positive reaction from the first movie's influences with Turkey, how Turkey kind of stole the show in the first one.
The design of the main puppet in Thankskilling 3, whose name is Nomi?
Yomi.
Yomi, that's what it is. It's drastically different, and
right. It
certainly
is.
nothing
It does
like Turkey.
It does seem like a Jim Henson thing. I was thinking the same thing. It's like a Muppet.
But that's not the only story in it. There is also a bisexual space worm who comes down to Earth with a robot named Muff.
the space worm Rhonda was the co-star with Turkey on Thankskilling 2, and they like dated for a little while.
Oh, that's
or
right.
something.
Yeah.
And Turkey like told him about the powers of Thankskilling 2. How it could be used for like mind control?
Yeah, something
was
something
that
along
it?
the lines.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I don't remember that at all.
The plot of Thankskilling 3 is extremely fucking convoluted. And
Yes.
honestly, I think if you go into this movie for the plot, you're not going to get very much out of it.
Well, I think one issue is that they seem to put way more time into trying to explain all of these plot elements than the first one does. I think it hurts the movie a lot in a lot of ways, because certainly it's a nonsense story, but it's not like they don't try and explain everything, and I think that is...
Yeah, they definitely try to throw everything at the wall with this one. I kind of have to commend them for that in some ways, because a lot of it works, a lot of it doesn't work, but there's
I would
a lot
on that a lot of it doesn't work. I was not a big fan of all of the, I guess you could say, flashiness that they put into this film, because if that story wasn't confusing enough, they sprinkle it in with a bunch of different animated segments, commercials on the television.
Well, that's the thing, is that's why it reminds me so much of Wonder Chosen, is because in a lot of ways it feels like a sketch show, because there's so many different styles they do. Like right after the first scene where we see the little clip of Thankskilling 2, we see Turkey at home with like his wife and his son, and that whole bit is done like a sitcom.
Yeah.
And I think that whole scene works really well. I thought that was really funny. But like you said, we get all these like commercials and stuff throughout the movie that are just ridiculous, these animations. Some of it works better than others. I think if they had just sort of embraced like the sketch show idea and had just done that for like an hour, I would say that arguably Thankskilling 3 could have been better than Thankskilling 1. The problem is they try to muddle it up with too many B plot lines.
Honestly, my hot take is Thankskilling 3 is a better movie if it was an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If they had cut it down to the same length as the first one, it would have been a better movie. The problem is it was just like half an hour too long, and they wasted that half an hour making this convoluted plot and inserting in like 30 dubstep music videos.
Oh, right.
In the
Yes,
middle.
that's another thing. The editing of it. There are maybe 4 sequences, including the opening credits, where it just goes into flashy music video territory.
Yeah, they're totally music videos. There's like no dialogue or anything in them. It's like really loud dubstep, just like really flashy visuals. The opening credits, it works for, considering that it's like the credits. But after that, there's just too much.
Well, I would say even then, and this is where the problem for me lies. It was a very successful Kickstarter that it showed there were people who were fans that wanted to see a sequel come to life. The problem with that, and I think this really hurts the film, is that with all of that money and all of those expectations, they feel they need to just go and do everything that they can afford to do. It loses so much of the charm the first Thankskilling had. There's just so much going on. It doesn't feel like a sequel to Thankskilling 3. It feels like a fan version of it, even though it's by the same director. But that's probably because of all of the influence from the community that helped to put this together.
It kind of goes back to that self-awareness thing.
This movie was like the definition of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And I will say...
And boy, they had a lot of spaghetti.
They had a ton of spaghetti. The spaghetti that does stick is really fucking good. Like, the stuff that works really, really well. Like,
I will agree. While it doesn't have as many funny moments that the first film does, it can still be pretty damn funny.
The funny moments were absurd.
We hadn't even mentioned
hard
that there's another puppet in the film. Well, just to put it, it's a rapping grandma. And,
and that is like the most repulsive puppet I've ever seen.
It's incredible.
So gross.
Yes.
So gross.
I got glaucoma. I got a Glock. You in a coma. Can't see shit.
And that was fantastic, and there are a good couple moments in that. And even some of the sketches, I think, have some moments that I did laugh at, and I think the problem still is that because of all of the additional parts, because there was so much more separation from the story, it was easier to evaluate those scenes just on their own, and I think a lot of them flopped.
I agree. Like Ben said, if they cut out like 30 minutes, because this movie is like an hour 40 as opposed to the hour 10 of the first one. If they cut out all that 30 minutes of bullshit filler and just kept it to like the main plot of like Turkey trying to find the last remaining copy of Thankskilling 2, if they had just stuck with that and done away with all the other bullshit characters and plot lines, it could have been a fucking amazing, hilarious movie, because all of that stuff is really funny.
I agree. And even when the movie first started and they were showing that clip from Thankskilling 2, I would have actually preferred to see that. I thought that if it had been a retro style 80s movie with a killer turkey in space, I almost wanted to see that more than what this movie ended up being.
I agree. I wanted to see that too.
I'm kind of bummed we never saw the pumpkin pie again.
Oh yeah, from Thankskilling 2.
That's right.
The pumpkin pilot, because he's piloting a spaceship. Yeah,
pilot.
That stuff was funny as fuck.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think the highs in this movie hit like peaks above the first one.
I agree. The problem is that the majority of those highs come in like the first 30 to 40 minutes. All of the bad stuff comes towards the end. And like when we were like 20-ish minutes into this movie, I was like, holy shit, this could be better than the first one. And we watched them back to back. So I was already riding a high from Thankskilling, and I wanted to continue with that. And then as it went, it got more and more disappointing.
Yes. Honestly, I feel like they kind of blew their load during the sitcom sequence when Turkey kills his wife by like chopping her head down the middle, and you see this puppet head like divide in half.
Yeah.
Like some of the best effects in the whole movie, right, during that sequence. One-liners abound, and he's talking to his son, and his son is like, I can be mean too. Like, I can call people dirty losers.
Oh, because the son keeps trying to do jokes like Turkey does.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, there is a scene that I thought was pretty funny where the kid comes up. He's like, Dad, I learned how puns work.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely still some funny moments toward the end of it. It's really just too long and too convoluted. Like, do away with all the Yomi trying to find her mind bullshit. I don't give a fuck about her as a character.
There's so many subplots.
Which I think
too many subplots.
You have Yomi, you have the Pluckmaster 3000, you have Muff and the Worm,
that.
You have the rapping grandma.
Do away with Muff and the Worm, do away with Yomi, do away with the Pluckmaster 3000, just keep it to...
Keep the rapping grandma.
Keep the rapping grandma, keep Uncle Donnie, because I thought he was funny. I like the plot of him trying to open Thanksgiving Land.
Yeah.
I think that one was okay with him and his friend Jefferson, who's just obsessed with his long pike.
Oh God!
Which is just a butter knife taped to the end of a broomstick. Like, keep that shit. Keep the rapping grandma. Keep Turkey looking for Thankskilling 2. Do away with the rest. Then you've got a near perfect film, in my opinion.
Well, I think with so much money put in from the Kickstarter, they probably felt if they did not put all of this stuff in, people would wonder where the money went into this project.
I agree. A lot of it feels like they don't know what to do with their budget.
Which is crazy because I thought they would have asked for maybe $20,000 or $50,000, but they asked for $100,000 right off the bat. They got it, but that seems very high. My theory with that is because I know they never, after the release of the first Thankskilling, they never planned to do a sequel. Right.
The whole to be continued in space thing at the end was a gag. I'm sure they did not expect this movie to become the cult classic that it did, and I think that there was probably a lot of pressure on them from the community to make a sequel since they sort of unofficially promised one at the end of the first one. And I get the feeling that they didn't really want to, so they set their Kickstarter goal really high and was like, there's no way that people will give us $100,000 to make a Thankskilling sequel. Because the budget of the first one was like $3,500.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like they just set their goal really high, didn't expect to make it, and then when they did, they didn't know what to do with all that money. Because especially when you're working with puppets and stuff, like, you can do a lot of that extremely cheaply. Like, they're probably like, what the fuck do we do with this $100,000? We have to use it because we don't want people to think that we're just pocketing some of it as like profit. I think that's why they had to throw in a lot of the stuff they do. Like, there's obviously some things in it that are just to show off the effects that they're capable of with their budget. Over half the cast is all puppets, you know? There's not that many actual human people in this movie.
Yeah. Which in a way I kind of liked because
I like that too, because I mean, with puppets you can do a lot of great fucking gags.
Yeah, and they're pushing the weirdness, which I thought was commendable.
One of my favorite gags, which was a relief because it came at a very dull time in the movie, was when the robot Muff, which is obviously a person in a suit, is like marching around the house, and then they cut down to his feet, and it's just the empty rubber legs of the suit just being like dangled and dragged along the floor.
Yeah,
right, because that was a pretty boring segment.
Yeah, that like whole 15-20 minutes in that segment was super
again,
boring and
it's
not
like
funny.
They try and put focus into making a story where that hurts the movie so much more to try and explain it, because if you're going to go all out with the absurdity, why would you want to reel it in with a thought out story, which also
like
doesn't
make sense.
like
a serious plot.
Was that around the same time as the wormy like penetrating people in the ass?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I believe, yeah.
Well, because Muff can fire some sort of like particle transmitting beam out of its asshole. Yeah. So they make all kinds of jokes about that.
Like the worm crawling up into his asshole and stuff. Played the bisexual jokes pretty cheaply, but
yeah, that was all really fucking
that's
stupid.
something
the other thing I liked in that scene though is there's a whole scene where Wormy is like talking on Muff's shoulder.
Oh, okay,
and
go with this.
Out of nowhere, for just one shot, Wormy turns into a hot dog.
Oh, yeah, right.
A hot dog with googly eyes.
Yeah. My guess is the puppet probably broke on set and they didn't know what to do.
Something like that.
It's weird. In a way, the first one felt like a student film in like how it's shot, and in a way this one also does, but in a different way. It's like the film school kids that had a lot of money.
Yeah, they were struggling to find ways to use up their budget because they didn't need $100,000 to make this movie, and those are the parts that it suffers the most, especially those like music video segments. Those are so jarring and take you out of the movie so much, it almost makes me wonder if their composer was like, if you want me to make music for this, then I want you to showcase my music a few times in the movie and like do these music video segments, because that's really what it felt like.
Right. Yeah. I'm surprised it wasn't a Kickstarter goal or anything. Get the DJ for the film.
And as you said, there's like, outside of the opening credits, there's like 3 more of these, and they're close to 5 minutes in length a piece. So even if you just cut those out, that's already 15 minutes shaved off the movie.
In most of them, nothing substantial happens.
No,
either.
nothing
it's
at
just
all.
like trippy visuals.
Yeah, like the kind of stuff that if you're dropping acid, like that would be cool to sit down and watch. But like if you're looking for a movie, then like why?
Yeah.
It really falls apart a lot after the first like 45 minutes. There's still some fun stuff in that last like hour, but they really get all of their best shit out of the way early in the movie. I don't think this is a terrible movie because I got enough enjoyment out of that first like 45 minutes. But I think if I watch it in the future, I would turn it off after that point. Like,
honestly, I see it as kind of perfect for a Thanksgiving food coma movie because you watch the first one, it's still pretty short, and you follow it up right away with the second one. By the second half of the movie, you're asleep.
You're asleep. Yep. No, that's a very good point. I can get
Yeah, but
down
that's
with
not
that.
a very high praise either. It's a movie you can fall asleep to.
Well,
so.
just in the second half, the first half is good, but by the time you've watched the first one and the first half of Thankskilling 3, by that point you're sleepy from all the turkey you've been eating. So then at that point you can just comfortably fall asleep for the rest of the movie.
Sure, yeah, if that's a praise that you could give the film, yeah, give it that. But I think that if we've covered just about everything we want to with this film, we can just move on to the ratings. Matisse, would you want to start this off?
Yeah, sure. Just for the entertainment value of the first 45 minutes or so and how many times I laughed, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 because of its potential and the gags that do work. I'll still give it a 3 out of 5 and say that I overall enjoyed the movie.
Okay. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5 as well. I think it throws so much at the wall. And I have to commend it for that in a lot of ways. I think they could have easily made just a basic, simple movie. I like that they were trying to do different stuff with it. The problem with that I have is they tried too much.
And they didn't cut the stuff that didn't work.
Yeah, because they tried so much, they couldn't give proper focus to any single thing. Mm-hmm. I think if they would have fleshed out the jokes, it would have turned out better as a whole. But you have so much funny, interesting stuff happening in this movie, you know, between the rapping grandma, Thanksgiving land, all these different plot lines. On their own, there's elements that work from each one of them. Cut out the convoluted exposition. Embrace the dumbness of the movie a little bit more. It would have been more successful as a whole.
I can second that. Eugene?
Well, if you were one of the Kickstarter people for this, one of the backers, I wonder if you would have been satisfied with the final product. I think for all of the high production value stuff they do in the film, they begin to lose a lot of the earnestness that made the first one so fun. Because if the first movie had a higher budget, it probably wouldn't have been as entertaining. It probably would have just felt more so like a bad movie than this very scrappily put together amateur style that I think I'm going to have to just give it a 2.5. Right down the middle for me.
All right. That'll bring us to an average rating of 2.8. Which I think is fair for the stuff that works and the stuff that doesn't work. There's definitely enjoyable aspects of this movie, but a lot of that gets lost in spaghetti that did not stick to the wall, but instead fell to the floor to be eaten by the dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I want to mention before we move on. The reason the first one got so popular is because it got kind of featured on Netflix in 2009 around Thanksgiving time.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it on Netflix.
Yeah, and it really popped off there. People kind of embraced it because it was a fun, dumb horror movie. And that's what kind of caused the Indiegogo for the sequel or the Kickstarter.
That makes a lot of sense. And hey, that's cool. Good for Netflix for getting a genuinely entertaining movie a great cult following. So now we're going to get into my solo review of Blood Freak. And boy, do I have a lot to say about this movie.
Fantastic.
This was a viewing experience unlike any I've ever had, I think. This movie is fucking buck wild. Some background first. This movie came out in 1979, directed by Brad F. Grinter, and it is truly very similar to Reefer Madness because it is a Christian anti-drug horror movie.
What?
Yes. So it begins with a biker, an ex-Vietnam vet biker named Herschel, picks up a woman on the side of the road whose car has broken down. Her name is Angel. She's a Bible quoting, like, drug rehabilitationist or whatever. And he takes her to her sister's house for a party. And her sister, Anne, is the complete opposite of Angel. She does a bunch of drugs. She loves having sex and partying, just generally being an immoral person. At this party, at first, everybody's trying to get Herschel to, like, smoke pot with them. There's a bunch of people sitting on the floor doing cocaine. It keeps punching in on the people who are snorting coke for no reason. Herschel keeps saying, "No, those drugs aren't for me. No, stay away." Anne is immediately extremely attracted to him and wants to smash. And he keeps rebuffing her advances. And then at some point, Angel turns this drug party into like a Bible study. She's just like quoting from the Bible and like giving lessons and stuff like that. This is a good point to mention that whoever fucking did the sound for this movie deserves to be like drawn and quartered. The room tone is deafening at all times. At all times. There's just this constant buzz of room tone, which is louder than the dialogue.
Oh, no.
So there are a lot of points in this movie where you cannot understand what people are saying at all. Totally incomprehensible because the background noise is louder than the actual dialogue. There are times where I can only assume the sound guy was holding the mic on the other side of the fucking room.
Does it all feel very low budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will get to that actually, because that's a big part of it. It's shot horribly, it's lit horribly, the acting is terrible. Some of the most deadpan, boring actors I've ever seen in any movie. No line is delivered with any sort of conviction. The editing is extremely weird. It does a lot of like super brief cutaways that only last like a second or two to things that have nothing to do with what's going on in the movie. The actors are obviously looking at their scripts half the time. The fucking sound guy must be either the director's brother or son or something, related to him somehow because they have the same last name, but I could not find what that relation is. This movie was made for $25,000.
Oh, wow.
Which in 1979 is obviously more than it is now, but still very low budget. The fucking financier, they had a single financier, and he backed out during production because he didn't like what he was seeing. And so the movie was made with only Brad Grinter and Steve Hawks' money. Steve Hawks is the guy who plays Herschel, and he's the co-writer and director. And the cast is made up of acting students from Brad Grinter's class.
Oh my God. What?
I guess he was a professor or something. I don't know. He should not be because he obviously doesn't know how to make a movie. So anyway, to get back to the plot a little bit, after this party, Angel takes Herschel home to talk to her dad, and they decide that he should live with them until he can like get back on his feet. And her dad runs a turkey farm and offers him a job, just doing miscellaneous work on the turkey farm. But before he starts his job, he's just doing some general odd jobs around the house, like fixing some stuff with the pool or whatever. And while he's out there, Anne comes out to sunbathe and starts smoking a joint and tries to get him to smoke it again. And he once again tells her no, that drugs aren't for him. So she just says, "Oh, I didn't know you were such a coward." And that's all it takes.
Oh.
He immediately grabs the joint and starts smoking, and he becomes irreparably addicted to marijuana.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And then so they start having sex and they fall in love, going through withdrawals if he doesn't smoke regularly. Like he's getting like the cold sweats and like seizing and just in like agonizing pain until he gets to smoke his big doinks.
Oh my
which,
goodness.
as we all know, is not an actual fucking thing, which is why it reminded me greatly of Reefer Madness, because it's just making up bullshit about smoking pot. So when he gets his job at the turkey farm, these two scientists who work there, like trying to genetically modify turkeys or whatever, bribe him with a bunch of free weed into being their guinea pig to eat turkey meat that they have like sprayed some sort of chemicals on.
What?
For what purpose, I do not know. But so because they offer him weed, he agrees. He eats an entire turkey by himself.
Oh, gee, hey, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, like we're doing
Nice.
right now. Speaking of which,
My arm is still stuck. I ate through, but I might have ate through my hand. So
Oh, shit.
I'm still stuck. I'm going to keep working on it.
We'll take you to the hospital once we're done
Okay,
here.
thank you.
So after he eats this entire turkey, he gets up to leave.
Oh, how fast is the scene? I just want to know, how long do they spend on him eating the turkey?
Not very long, unfortunately.
a shame.
It's not like a 10-minute scene of him eating.
It is him
eating a
tearing
turkey.
into it, devouring it.
Yeah. No, it's not very long. And so he gets up to leave. And as he's leaving the table and walking through the yard, he starts feeling sick. He falls down onto the ground and starts having a very violent seizure. The two scientists see him and assume that he's dying, so they off-screen take him and dump him in the woods. But yet another very confusing thing about this movie is they say they take him and dump him in the woods, and then it cuts back to the same shot of him having a seizure in the yard, but they've just put a blue filter over it for day for night.
Oh my god. No way.
Yeah, it's obvious he's not in the woods. It's like, it's close up, but it's obvious that he's on like somebody's lawn. They obviously had no budget for any sort of like real locations in this movie. Everything was just like shot either on the street or like in somebody's house. They dump him in the woods, and he wakes up that night with a giant mutant turkey head. Other than that, he looks no different. He looks like
just the head.
It's just the head. He's still wearing the same clothes. He's still a human from the neck down. It's just a big paper mache head.
Oof.
The mask does not move at all. It looks really, really bad. It looks like very obviously paper mache. The eyes do glow, so they did have some money to put lights in the eyes.
Ooh.
That's why you don't smoke those lace doinks.
That's right. Don't smoke lace doinks. Apparently, though, even though he has the head of a mutant turkey, he still has, like, retained his wits. Otherwise, he's still the same. So he goes home to Anne and, like, comes upon her in the dark. She doesn't seem all that concerned that he's a big turkey-headed man now. Like, when she first sees him, she, like, faints, and then he, like, brings her to, and he starts, like, writing down what happened to him and, like, showing it to her so she knows.
Can he not speak?
He cannot speak. He can only make turkey noises. So he's writing everything down. It's very weird. Her line of thinking immediately goes to, well, how are we gonna get married? What are the children gonna think of their father? What if the children look like their father? He then gets up and goes and closes the blinds so the room is totally dark. You can't see anything. And then they have sex. And it's just black. You just like hear her going, "Oh, Herschel," intercut with turkey noises.
Oh my god. What is it about these Thanksgiving where they have to fuck the turkey?
Oh, okay, so this is some backtracking, but this is extremely important, especially for when I get to the end of the movie. Every now and then, throughout the movie, it will cut to just the director, Brad Grinter, sitting at a table, like narrating and like talking about the events that are happening in the movie. He's got his script down on the table in front of him because he keeps looking down to read it, and he's chain smoking cigarettes while he's doing this. So this is just intercut throughout the whole thing. The weird thing too is that even though he and everybody else in the movie are obviously reading their lines off camera, they keep flubbing their lines, and they don't just do new takes. They just fuck up their lines and they left it in the movie, which is fucking really weird. Also, from this point forward, I'm going to refer to Turkey Herschel as Turkle because it's easy.
Okay, all right.
Turkle at this point is still addicted to pot, but he no longer can get anything from it by smoking it. He discovers that he has to, in order to get high, he has to drink the blood of drug addicts.
What? Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's
So-
just ranking up right there. Fuck.
Right. So he's just like living with Anne, and like some of his friends come over and she shows him to them. And that's the weird thing about this movie is that nobody seems overtly concerned that he just has like a giant turkey head, that he's like a monster. Nobody seems that bothered by it.
It happens, you know.
Everybody is just like, there's no way we're gonna be able to get enough drugs to keep him satisfied, man. Like, nobody's concerned that he's a turkey monster. They're just worried about being able to have enough drugs.
Body positivity, dude.
And their drug supplier is a dude with a very 70s porn star mustache named Guy.
Just Guy?
Yeah, his name is Guy.
Nice.
And at one point, Anne, like, goes over to his house to like pick up more drugs, and she like goes and falls asleep on his bed, and his drug supplier comes over, and Guy owes him money from the last time he picked up. His supplier is like threatening to leave, and Guy's just like, well, no, hold on a second, I'll give you the money I got now, and there's a babe in the other room and she's all yours. If you just consider it interest, I'll get you the rest of the money next time. And so, like, the guy goes in and, like, looks at her sleeping on the bed, and he's like, okay, cool. And Guy's like, all right, see ya, and he just leaves. And then his drug supplier, like, tries to rape Anne, because that makes sense. He stops because he looks out the window and sees Turkle standing outside watching him. He then runs away and ends up getting chased by Turkle and runs into a warehouse, and Turkle uses a saw to cut his leg off.
Oh, nice.
But before that, we just get like this sort of collection of scenes of Turkle tracking down like drug addicts, like people just doing heroin in their car or whatever, hanging them upside down and cutting their throat and then like drinking the blood out of his hands.
Ugh, all right.
But here's another thing. Throughout all of this, anytime somebody is being killed, they scream, obviously. But they obviously only got one recording of one scream that's very short because they just keep looping it over and over and over and over and over again. They just keep using the exact same scream. So after killing several drug addicts and drinking their blood, two of Turkle's friends decide that he's too dangerous to be allowed to live. Something has to be done. They track him down, and he's just some day for night shots of him just like wandering through the Florida Everglades or something, because this was shot in Miami. They chop his head off with a machete, but the very weird thing is, it's probably the most surreal thing in the whole fucking movie. Right as they're bringing the machete down to cut off his head, it smash cuts to a shot of an actual turkey being actually decapitated.
Oh,
in
boy.
like slow motion, like the body like flapping around and like spraying blood out of its neck. And then just cuts to like the turkey's head lying on the ground. And then it cuts to like a table at Thanksgiving, like the turkey in the middle of the table, like the cooked turkey, and next to it just the big paper mache turkey head that Turkle was wearing.
Ugh.
And people just like tearing apart the turkey with their bare hands. And then Herschel wakes up in the woods, normal. This whole thing was a hallucination brought on by a combination of the weed he was smoking and the chemicals that were sprayed onto the turkey that he ate.
Oh, no!
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
They have a twist in there?
They have a twist that none of it actually happened at all.
No, holy fuck.
And that it was all a hallucination. And so then he goes to Angel to ask for help, and she rehabilitates him and gets him off the marijuanas. And Anne has a life turnaround as well, because she thinks that it was her getting him hooked on drugs that like destroyed his life. So then she stops doing drugs too, and they live happily ever after.
Oh, what an uplifting ending.
What an uplifting ending. But now I have to talk about my absolute favorite thing in this entire movie. At the end, the director comes back like he has been, and he's, sort of wrapping everything up, talking about how in our darkest times we turn to God. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Before Turkle gets decapitated, he's like on his hands and knees like praying, and then they come up and cut his head off.
Oh god.
So the Brad Grinter's talking about how we turn to God in our dark times or whatever. About halfway through his spiel, he just, because he's chain smoking cigarettes this whole time, he starts coughing, and he just has a super long coughing fit that they just leave in. They don't cut it out.
So it's not intentional?
No, it's not. No, he's obviously just like having a coughing fit. He's like, well, maybe we can all strive to live better lives. It just goes on for such a long time, and they don't cut it out. They just leave it in.
Honestly, it's the perfect punchline to this movie. It's like super anti-drug, but the director is chain smoking the whole time, and it totally undercuts his message because he's like
dying. He's like coughing up a lung, and then the movie just ends.
Oh wow. Well, with all that, would you recommend people watch this movie?
Yes. It's a fucking god-awful movie. It's frustratingly bad at times.
Is it funny? Are there funny moments,
Yes.
hopefully, at least? Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of gore. The effects are really bad because he always like hangs people upside down when he like slits their throat. And there are a couple of times where you can even see the tube that they're pumping the fake blood out of, sticking out of the person's shirt.
Oh, great.
This is a bafflingly bad movie. I made better movies when I was in high school than this. I don't know how this movie got made, but it's because of how baffling it is that makes it so fascinating. And there are those super duper dumb moments, like with the director coughing up a lung at the end and them just leaving it in. It's for stuff like that you should absolutely watch this movie.
Okay.
It's not too long. It's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh,
so
wow.
If it was longer than that, it would become exhausting. I'm gonna rate this right in the middle of the road, 2.5 pods, because there's nothing good about it, but there's enough funny things about it that it's definitely worth watching at least once. I don't know if I would go back and watch this movie ever, but you have to experience it. You just have to.
Yeah, it would be easy to just say, go watch the coughing fit scene, but at the same time,
No, you need-
the build up to that makes
moment.
it so much funnier.
I agree. Like everything that happens up till that point, like you said, Ben, it's the perfect punctuation for that movie. Terrible, terrible movie, but just so bafflingly bad that it's a must-see at least once, I think. Just for sort of like a clinic on how you don't make a movie. With that, let's move on to our game.
Yeah, return of the movie pitch game.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
So, I was thinking, there's not many Thanksgiving horror movies. We should pitch our own and see which should be greenlit next.
Ooh, boy.
I will play the role of the non-rapist Hollywood executive.
Please, Mr. Weinstein, fund my movie. I'll touch your peener.
I have a new set of cards. Some of them are the same. I was actually going through the actors card, and I had Kevin Spacey written down. This was before reveal. Yeah, the allegations came out. I still left it in there though.
Oh jeez. Okay.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, we can have some fun with that.
This pitch might turn drastically different. I have 3 decks of cards. One is all locations. The yellow deck is all actors, and the orange decks, they're marked 1, 2, and 3. Each of them give you bonus points if you use them. You can take up to 3 of them, but each one has a sort of obstruction that you need to utilize within the pitch of your movie. So I will let you guys pick from each deck as you see fit, and then give you 5-10 minutes. Think of a pitch, and we'll come back and see who has the best pitch.
All right. And we're back.
All right. So we have 2 movies ready to pitch. And in order to see who goes first, I have a die. You guys can pick odd or even. So I'll let you guys decide between yourselves.
I'll go even.
All right.
All right. It is even. So you get the choice. Do you want to go first or second, Matisse?
I'm going to go second.
Oof, okay.
Let Eugene
Right.
start us out.
All right. So, Mr. Hollywood producer, I am giving you the next best animated horror film of the season. It is called The Lurky Turkey, and it is about the true origins of Thanksgiving. Michael Douglas plays the leader of the Plymouth community named Anthony Turkey. He begins to notice mysterious disappearances within the community. First, a man drowned in gravy. On the wall, the words, "You are in gravy danger." Second, his grandmother is murdered, eviscerated into a mush. And then again, the words, "Looks like, wait, I don't want to do that pun." Can I change that one?
Sure.
All right. Nope, I'm going to stick with that one. I'm going to stick with this. The grandmother's murder, and it says, "Looks like Granberry is going to be on the menu tonight." And then, as he dives deeper into the mystery, he begins to notice turkey feathers left at the scenes of each crime. And so suspicions begin to arise that the animals that lurk around Plymouth are conspiring to murder the peaceful settlers. And so Anthony Turkey must travel and try and find the King Turkey's lair. And in a final confrontation begins a fantastic fight scene on top of a cliff when the King Turkey is pushing Michael Douglas against the edge of this cliff with all of his minion turkeys following behind. Michael Douglas has planted dynamite on the cliff, ready to sacrifice himself. And right before the bomb goes off, throwing the cliff down into the landscape below them, he says his final words: "Birds of a feather rock together." And then the cliff explodes and they fall and they crash. But miraculously, Michael Douglas is saved because he manages to land on all of the turkeys and he survives. With this newfound lease on life, he brings all of these turkeys back home to celebrate this joyous occasion that they have defeated the menace. And thus begins the tradition of the world's first Thanksgiving.
I don't think they had dynamite back then,
Why not?
because that was invented in like the 1800s. But no. In this movie, you have dynamite.
I'm a search up when dynamite was.
It is an animated movie, so Acme
true.
is still
Oh, yeah.
the star of the show, obviously.
Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. The guy who the Nobel
you're right.
Prize is.
1867.
Okay,
Well,
Mr. Science Guy.
Well, we'll just pretend it's like gunpowder instead of
Yeah,
dynamite.
right. Like he has
Gunpowder.
a
Yeah.
gunpowder thing.
Okay, so How about you read your cards off before I give it a
Alright.
rating?
So first one was at Thanksgiving dinner, hence why I decided to make it origin story. Michael Douglas, I had a period piece with pilgrims, so those two went hand in hand. Must feature 3 puns and an animated feature.
All right.
So,
So I would say that's pretty solid. You had some great Thanksgiving puns.
The big problem is after seeing Thankskilling, it basically did all of the great puns, and so I did not have a lot to work with.
It's tough to top those puns, really.
Yeah, I think you did a good job, though.
Yeah.
I like the engravy danger one.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was hoping for a little bit more in the middle.
Yeah, right.
You had the beginning and you had the end, and they were both great. But the middle wasn't quite there. So I think I'll give you a solid 6 points
6 points?
out of 10. Yep. And you took, what, three cards?
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives you a total score of 15.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, Matisse.
Okay. All right, Mr. Weinstein. This Thanksgiving, Adrian Brody stars in Gobbled Up. Adrian Brody plays an army general who is on his way home to see his family for Thanksgiving, the one time a year that he gets to see his family. But as he's driving, his dog gets into the cooler in the back seat and eats the Thanksgiving turkey. This is the day before Thanksgiving, so he doesn't have much time. He goes everywhere on his way home. He cannot find a place to get a replacement turkey until he gets directed towards a butcher shop in the middle of the woods run by a bunch of rednecks who own a turkey farm. What he doesn't know is that this turkey farm is placed directly on top of an Indian burial ground.
Oh, shit.
So he buys the turkey, takes it home, cooks it up for his family, but right as Thanksgiving dinner is about to begin, he is struck by a bout of uncontrollable diarrhea. So he spends almost all of the dinner in the bathroom while his family dines on the turkey he bought. But what they don't know is that the turkeys are possessed by the vengeful spirits of the Native Americans whose bodies were disturbed by the turkey farm being put onto their burial ground. And so anybody who eats the turkey becomes cursed and turns into a giant mutant turkey monster who, if they bite somebody, they also become a turkey monster. So it spreads like a zombie virus, and they have a taste for human flesh. Adrian Brody comes out of the bathroom and sees his whole family mutating into these giant turkey monsters, and he manages to make his escape, but the plague spreads fast, and before you know it, the entire world is overrun by these turkey monsters. Society has collapsed. The military is fighting a losing battle, but Adrian Brody leads the resistance. And because he's an army general, he has access to all of these automatic weapons and tanks and weapons of mass destruction. Eventually, he comes into contact with the King Turkey, who is, dun dun dun, his twin brother. Of course, mutated into a giant turkey. But he's such a big, fat butterball turkey that he can't actually walk or fly or anything. So he rides a one-wheeled contraption, much like a unicycle. And in the final confrontation, an epic battle, lots of CGI, lots of explosions. When Adrian Brody confronts the King Turkey, he says, "Here come dat boy," and then proceeds to launch a missile right into the middle of the King Turkey's enormously fat body, which explodes, raining turkey down on everybody, and the curse is broken. And he finishes with, "Oh shit, what up?" So
That was incredible.
That's my movie.
That's
what are
great.
your cards?
Okay, so once again, I got Adrian Brody. I don't know if this is going to become like a
It's going to be a running joke.
It's going to be a running gag. I always end up with Adrian Brody. Has to take place or feature a turkey butchery. And my constraints were it has to pander to a Chinese audience. it has to feature a meme, and it has to have supernatural entities.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
I think that was a pretty solid pitch as well. I still think you could have fleshed it out a little bit more, but you got a lot of funny parts in there, so I'll give you props for that.
I could have turkey fleshed it out a little more.
I'll give you a 7 out of 10. How many points did you have on your cards?
I had 2 3s and a 1.
Oh, and a 1.
And a 1.
Oh, shit. Okay. So that gives you a score of
14. If
14,
you gave me a
yeah.
7.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, it looks like Eugene wins this one yet again.
Gobble, gobble, motherfuckers!
Okay, Eugene. Well, then, in the interest of our new format, you get to pick the third movie that we all watch together for the next episode.
I will. And for the next episode, we are going to do something a little different. We are going to be focusing on one director that has, well, made a real splash in horror movies as of late.
I would say I think he's one of the best modern horror filmmakers we have right now.
Big up and comer for sure.
I'm sure that many of you may know him, but it's going to be Mike Flanagan, director of such movies as Oculus, Hush, and the new Gerald's Game, which you can find on Netflix and watch right now. It is very good.
And that's actually what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be watching Gerald's Game, Oculus, and Eugene, you get to pick the third Mike Flanagan movie we watch and talk about.
And my pick for that is I want to choose one of his earlier films, Absentia, because I have not seen that. And, well,
his debut. I actually haven't seen that either. That's one of 2 Mike Flanagan movies I have not seen.
So we will be able to check him out from his first feature to his latest Netflix original movie.
Perfect. I haven't seen Absentia either. I haven't really heard much about it.
I've heard pretty good things, so I'm excited. The only of his movies that I haven't seen are that and the Ouija movie that came out like a year or 2 ago. I think that will be interesting. I'm excited. I think he's a really good director, so
we'll definitely have plenty to talk about.
Plenty of good stuff to talk about. And that should bring us to the end of our Danksgiving extravaganza. Thank you so much for listening. The show is produced by our own Ben Sheets, who also is the composer of our entrance music. So thanks much for that. I am the editor of the show, and if you want to engage in some discussion with us, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at PodPeoplePod for both of those. Follow us at Letterboxd, Pod People Podcast, to see our ratings of the movies that we watch. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Van Awesome.
I'm on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
You can check out Strictly Haiku. If I still haven't updated in forever. Go do whatever. Go watch a good movie.
We need
something.
some Thanksgiving haikus, Eugene.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we should get out of here. I definitely did eat through my hand on this turkey, and I'm gonna need to go to the hospital. So
just plug it up with stuffing.
I tried, and then I ate the stuffing.
Oh no! Did you eat more of your arm?
Yes.
Well, then I guess we need to get Eugene to the hospital then. I'm Matisse Van Rossum.
I'm Ben Sheets.
I'm Eugene. The hospital now.
Bye!